Welcome to Blind Abilities. This is Pete Lane. In the era of COVID-19, we have seen a sharp rise in the production of virtual music, ranging from individual performers to bands to choral groups. Prior to the pandemic, however, this form of music was not only unusual, but even rare. Our guests today on Blind Abilities represent one of those rare virtual music groups that originated before the coronavirus entered the world scene.
We are an international online choir for the blind, consisting of members hailing from 9 countries now, which is still incredible to say.
The Serenity Virtual Choir is that group.
It's very easy to feel alone in a time like this. We are all experiencing the effects of a devastating pandemic.
It seems like
And Kaleigh Brendle is the founder of that group, starting out small.
You know what would be great is if I could assemble a bunch of my friends to form a little choir of blind musicians.
Adapting to changes as she went.
Let's do a national online choir for the blind.
Realizing early on that she had a passion for the group.
I recognized that there was something here that I didn't want to let go of.
And as could be expected, the size of the choir grew during the pandemic.
In quarantine, we had members from Germany and Austria and Kenya and South Africa and Ireland and Italy and
singing a wide variety of genres.
The song that my friend Sophia Ripstein and I will be doing for Serenity Serenade is a song called I Feel Pretty/Unpretty from the show Glee.
Serenity Serenade, I'm singing She Used to Be Mine by Sarah Bareilles.
I did In the Arms of the Angel by Sarah McLachlan.
And our other guest, Katie Hall, is on the choir's editing team.
And I was like, this is really cool. I would like to learn how to edit.
And has continued to develop her skills.
I learned how to line up the tracks first. We have people starting at random places, so then you have to line them up and put them all together.
But when all is said and done, it takes teamwork.
It generally doesn't take super long, but you got to work together.
And a sense of family.
We are not just a choir, we are a family.
And now let's join Blind Abilities correspondent Simon Bonifant in the Blind Abilities studio with his guests, Kaleigh Brendle and Katie Hall.
Hello, everyone on Blind Abilities. This is Simon Bonifant here. Today in the virtual studio, I'm here with Kaleigh Brendle and Katie Hall. So how you folks doing today?
We're good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, very good. Kaleigh, it's nice to have you back on the podcast. We've had you a few times on here. It's nice to have you back. Today, we're going to be talking about the Serenity Choir, which is a choir that you started and work for. Can you talk about that?
Of course. So hi to everyone. It's amazing to be back. Thank you again for the honor. My name is Kaleigh Brendle, and I am the founder and director of the Sing for Serenity Choir. We are an international online choir for the blind, consisting of members hailing from 9 countries now, which is still incredible to say. We have members from all different age ranges. We have an 8-year-old that we just admitted last night, and our oldest members are adults. We have such a diverse group of visually impaired vocalists. They're from all around the world, all walks of life, have all different sort of backstories, but the commonality among us all is how devoted we are to music, to each other, and to the community that over the past 3 years serving as director that I've been able to build. We are not just a choir. I always emphasize that we are a family. We are a tightly knit group. And although there are a lot of us, there are dozens of us now, we allow the number to fluctuate because we know that everyone has differing flexibilities. But no matter how big we get, we always ensure that we know each other on a first name basis and we have that familial atmosphere.
Oh, that's terrific. And like you said, the choir has really grown in a really short time. I remember when you first started the choir and now it's grown a lot. Can you talk about how you started this, how it came about, and how you got the idea to even do a virtual choir? Now it seems like virtual is the norm, but
right.
Back in the day, it kind of wasn't. So how did you get the idea and get the whole format of a virtual choir going?
Of course. So when I was 14 years old, I served as the president of my school's chapter of the National Junior Honor Society. And our faculty advisor asserted that we needed to complete a service learning project, which basically entailed giving back to the community in some way. And my good friend, she had said that she was going to create a veterans fundraiser in New Jersey. And I was well-versed in the New Jersey, local blind community back then. So I said, you know what would be great is if I could assemble a bunch of my friends to form a little choir of blind musicians and we could perform at your event. I think that would be really nice. We agreed that that's what we were going to try to do. So I started assembling this little organization, and I had been a part and competed in the International Braille Challenge for many years. So I had connections from, Connecticut and across the country. And many of those connections had begun to reach out to me and inquire whether they could participate. And I had to unfortunately turn them down at that point because it was so localized. But then my friend's event ended up not being able to take place, which paved the way for me to segue into this new chapter of the organization and create an online equivalent. So I expanded the range, the geographical parameters, and I said, okay, well, why don't we try this out? Let's do a national online choir for the blind. So we started meeting over Skype, trying to coordinate these little projects. The first song we ever learned, I think we had maybe 6 or 7 singers. We started trying to put together little videos. We used video editing. We didn't do audio at first. And then, the school year ended and my 8th grade year concluded, and technically my obligations to the choir completely disappeared. But I recognized that there was something here that I didn't want to let go of. So I said, well, you know what? I'm going to continue this. At that point, we'd called ourselves the Sing for the Spring Choir. I remember one night thinking, I don't want this to be just this spring. I want it to be forever. I wanted some kind of message of peace and message of love. So I decided to call it the Sing for Serenity Choir. That September, we slowly transitioned to this app called Team Talk, and now that's completely what we use. We had members from all over the country, Virginia, California, Connecticut, some from the local area, but we had Alabama, and it was everywhere. And it was still a tiny, tiny group, but we began learning a Christmas piece. And that year, we posted our Christmas piece to YouTube and just kept it up. And then over quarantine, our membership has just exploded, because back then we did have, I think, 1 international member. And that's why I knew that I wanted to transition into an international phase of this, because we had children from Canada and England reaching out. At that point, it was just 9 to 18. And then I had some very skilled vocalists, like one of the ones on this call with me here, that were outside that age range that wanted to participate. And so I expanded it to 9 to 22. In quarantine, we had members from Germany and Austria and Kenya and South Africa and Ireland and Italy and Singapore that wanted to participate. So the geography of the choir just completely skyrocketed in terms of ethnicities and demographics. Then this past June and July, I extended the age range completely. So it would be a youth division for those who are under 18 and an adult division for those who are over 18. And now we are, give or take, about 90 voices. And it fluctuates because we do allow for that flexibility. We understand we'll have the marching band kids that can't do the fall. We'll have the spring musical kids that can't do the spring. And we'll have the adults with their job obligations that can't do certain months. So we never say okay, when you're in this, you have to do every piece. It's very loosely fitting and allowing them to do what they need to.
Oh, that's great. So how many pieces do you do? And can you kind of take us through the different genres that you've done? I've listened to your pieces. I thought they were really amazing. Can you take us through that?
Of course. And thank you for the compliment. We really appreciate that. In terms of how many we do, that's sort of up to how long it takes us to learn something and how long it takes the editing team to finish something. But I never put deadlines in the editing team because it's a type of work that I myself could never imagine doing. It's a lot of technicalities, and I salute them with every fiber of my being for putting all of those tracks together. But in terms of how many we do, we sort of aim to do 1 every 2 months. We allow for a bunch of variables to play out as they will. Maybe we'll have a September, October piece. Maybe we'll have it November, December, and then January, February, and such and such. In terms of genres, I sort of try to cater that to 3 things. 1, if we have any special requests. For example, a piece that we're going to be putting out in 2021 was requested by a COVID-19 survivor who is in Serenity, and the piece that helped her get through that devastating time and trying time in her life was called Speechless from the musical Aladdin. So I arranged that for her. And then we had another girl who lost her mother, unfortunately. The song that helped her get through that time was called Blessings by Laura Story. So I arranged that one for her. And so that's the first sort of contention, the special requests. And we actually just received, I'm going to kind of hold off on sharing too many details, but we received an amazing opportunity from a local group that wanted us to do a piece especially for them. I'm very, very excited to be talking about that more in the upcoming months. The second one is what our members are looking for. A lot of times, like with the piece that we're going to hopefully be putting out within the next week or so, we had each section nominate a piece that they were looking to do. And then the second section leaders and I kind of collectively made a decision about which of those pieces would be the most realistic and most keeping with our message. We allowed them to, make that preliminary choice. And then from there, we kind of solidify the decision. And third is just sort of anything else that pops up where, this is just a suggestion. There was one song that was really great that it was a Sound of Music medley, and it was beautiful. And one member suggested it to me, and I presented this to the choir as a whole. And I said, what about this? I think this would be amazing. Everybody agreed. And so we did it. So that's sort of how we decide. But genres, we have songs from Broadway musicals, traditional choral repertoire, ordinary pop pieces that I just happen to arrange for a specific purpose, even a little bit of gospel if we need it, or, if people request it, classic holiday hits. We've done a little bit of everything. It's difficult to pinpoint.
Oh, that's awesome. That's terrific. I remember that song that you did, Blessings. I enjoyed that rendition. Very good. So I'd encourage the listeners to check that out, and we'll give more information on where they can do so in a bit. How does it work logistically in terms of how all the different people meet on Team Talk and how they talk about what they're going to do? How do they record it and send it into you, their parts and everything?
Right. Let's start from the beginning of that, and I'll dive a little deeper and ask for Katie's input at the end. How we meet. We actually have a secure choir server. It's password protected to ensure that only choir members have access to the account credentials. We do have some younger members. It's important that their parents feel that this is something they can trust. So that was why I ensured that there was that password component installed in there. And I've coded the server in such a way that there are, probably dozens of channels and sub-channels within that to allow for one-on-one instruction. So the way it works is it's a Harry Potter themed server. So we have a channel where it's the main channel for our youth division, and then we have a channel for each section. So, the sopranos, altos, tenors, basses, mezzos, we have channels for each of those. Then we have a channel for our editing team to meet. And then within, say, that alto channel, for example, we have 2 sub-channels so that if a section leader or an assistant section leader needs to more privately instruct a member, that's where they can take them. So typically, each section will convene in their main corresponding channel at first. And then if they need to congregate in the sub-channels, they can feel free to do so. And I'll make my rounds to begin every rehearsal and just make sure that we're all on track. And I tell each section leader at the meeting, because we have a section leader meeting after the regular rehearsal concludes, I'll say, okay, this is where I'd like you guys to get to tonight. This is where you can shoot for in terms of instruction. Whether that means members would like to go off and listen to the part a bunch of times and drill it and then come back and check with the section leader, or whether that means the section leader is teaching them phrase by phrase, note by note. How the part works is whether I arrange it or whether I find it on YouTube and auditorily transcribe each individual part and each individual phrase. What I'll do is I'll have the instrumental and I'll sing that given part to the instrumental so that each section has a track that they receive comprised of my vocal recording and the instrumental. And that's what they ultimately record with through headphones and through such apps as Hokusai and GarageBand. We used to do voice memos, but to make it a little easier on our editors, we do Hokusai and GarageBand now. So when you say go record, they will put that track into a Hokusai or GarageBand project. They'll record along with it so that they're singing along with me, but they'll do it in headphones so that you sort of don't hear my track, you just hear their voice. Then they'll mute it at the end. In most cases, they send it to one of their section leaders and they'll proof the recording, and then they'll send it to me for kind of a further verification, and then I'll put it in the Dropbox. So Katie, can you talk a little bit more about the Dropbox and how the editing team gets all the files from there?
Yeah, so we have a shared Dropbox folder that each editor's on, and then she uploads the files into Dropbox, and if we need to make any corrections to anything, she leaves us a comment like mute this or that, so we can take it from there and put them together and make it sound good.
Great. Katie, you do the editing. That's a very specific field, and it's great that you do that. Can you talk about how you got into it and what software do you use?
So how I got into it, last summer we did a thing called Serenity Serenade, and we each recorded our own piece. And so that's how I got introduced to the app Hokusai, because I recorded my piece in that. And then I was like, this is really cool. I would like to learn how to edit. And the girl that showed me how to use it volunteered to help me edit. So I first lined up the tracks in You Will Be Found. I learned how to line up the tracks first, which just basically means that you put them to where they're all matched up, because we have people starting, at random places. So then you have to line them up and put them all together. And so that's how I learned. I had to basically teach myself the rest of it, panning and volumes and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I use Hokusai. Most of us do.
That's great.
Yeah.
And how long does it usually take you to edit these multiple tracks and put them into a big piece?
It depends on how quickly I get the track. I know like today I did a bunch of stuff on one of them. I was at it for a couple hours just because some of them weren't lining up right. We try to split things up. So there were about 3 of us working on this one. So one person was lining up tracks, then one person was doing the panning, and then I was doing the volumes. But then I had to line up some other tracks. So it generally doesn't take super long, but like you got to work together well. I did one project by myself, and that didn't take as long because I stay up and do stuff.
Oh, there you go. That's good. Kaleigh, you had talked about the Serenity Choir being like a family and a community, and I know that you do some social events virtually on Team Talk, and I know that you get a lot of people that go to that. Can you talk about how that got going and what you do on those events?
Essentially, how that got started is with a comment I received from a person that was part of the choir, and they had commented on the fact that, we are so big now, and I don't know the name of everybody in every section. I'm getting so many of these recordings, and I don't know these people. I really took a step back and thought, hold on a second, that's not how I envisioned this. It's great that there's so many people, but I want everybody to know as many people in the choir as they can and be acquainted with them. So I decided to utilize the sentiments expressed in that comment for a productive purpose and create these social events. What we do is we'll have 3 game hosts. We do games that the members request. So it could be, It's Not My Fault, or Family Feud, or Jeopardy, or Accent Challenge, or Name That Tune, and someone will host them. And then I will create groups that basically consist of people from different sections. So for example, I remember one night I was in a channel looking at everyone who was logging onto the server. And I saw that, we had maybe 4 or so altos, a couple of tenors, maybe a bass or 2, a couple of sopranos. So what I would do is I would make sure that there was someone from each section in each group. So I would try to do maybe an alto, a soprano, a person from the monologue team, which just a little bit of background. The monologue team is basically a division of Serenity where the individuals might not be as comfortable singing and they would rather speak. Simon, you mentioned blessings. There's a monologue at the beginning and the end of blessings and of every piece. That's what they do. The monologue team sort of takes care of that speech component and introducing and concluding each video. But back to the social event, I could have an alto, a soprano, a tenor, a monologue team person, and a bass in one channel. They wouldn't ordinarily be able to interact in rehearsals, but because of the social events, they're able to coexist and get to know one another. I thought that was really beneficial for them. And I try to make it so that every week the groups rotate. So maybe that alto would be in a group with a completely different set of people the next week. That's just sort of like what we try to do with those social events.
Oh, that's very nice. And it's probably true that through the choir, people have made a lot of friendships and community. That's terrific, the camaraderie. Where can people find the choir's videos? I know you have a lot of things up on YouTube, and I've seen some people sharing it on Facebook.
So we have a bunch of different social media platforms that are managed by the monologue team. I manage the YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel is the source of our actual performances. So if you're looking to see what we've done and what we continue to do, you can subscribe. Sing for Serenity Choir, and Serenity is spelled SERENITY. And then if you look us up on Instagram, we do, a member spotlight, so you can hear a little bit more about some of our members. And on Facebook, I manage the Facebook page, and I try to post all of our videos and any updates that we have. We have a Twitter, but essentially all of it traces back to that YouTube. That's where you can find our performances. We just did something called Serene Carols, which was essentially a holiday equivalent of a talent showcase. We had solo performances, duets, trios, quartets, and it was all holiday themed. And everyone did a different piece, and there was 20 acts in total with, I think over 24 participants in both nights collectively. All of our pieces are up there. There's a community there. There's an about section where it takes you to links of our other social media accounts. We do have a Gmail address, so if you're interested in joining, you can email singforserenity@gmail.com. Again, that's singforserenity@gmail.com. One word, all lowercase.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'd encourage all the listeners that are interested to come out and join. And if you have a musical talent, come out and join. And even if you don't, well, you can cultivate it a little bit. It's a great group of people. To the both of you, thank you very much for coming on to Blind Abilities. Thank you for the work that you do with the choir. It's really great. Very supportive of you and the work that you do, because I also am involved in music. So I'm very supportive of the work that you're doing for the blind and visually impaired community. So keep up the great work. And thank you for coming on today.
Thank you, Simon. On behalf of all of us, we really appreciate it.
We'd like to thank Kaleigh Brendle and Katie Hall for joining Simon Bonifant in our Blind Abilities studio and sharing details about their virtual online musical group, the Sing for Serenity Choir. The main platform for their music is on YouTube. Search for them and subscribe at Sing for Serenity Choir. They're also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And from all of us here at Blind Abilities, through these challenging times, to you, your family, and friends, stay well, stay informed, and stay strong. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great day. For more podcasts with the blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. And be sure to check out our free app in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store.